Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video, I'm going to be attempting to talk about what a spiritual experience is. You hear this spirituality thing. I'm spiritual, or they're spiritual, or that was a spiritual experience, or, this whole throwing around of the word spirituality. And I just want to take some time to talk about what I would define as not only a spiritual experience, but spirituality sort of as a whole, like the essence of spirituality. Like what are we really talking about when we say spirituality, or when we say a spiritual experience? So, in simple terms, to me, what a spiritual experience is any and all experiences that are not congruent with what you could call the mainstream narrative of physics and science and rational thinking and rational conceptual psychology in modern culture. A spiritual experience is something that seems to transcend or go beyond or be outside of the sort of confines of what we would call reality, what we would call a realistic approach to things, a rational approach to reality. Now, this isn't to say that a spiritual experience isn't rational. But what I'm trying to say here is that what I would call a spiritual experience is something that has really nothing to do with the field of study of physics, science, chemistry, that stuff, the entertainment with the physical world, and rather than the entertainment with the physical world, more so like the obsession with the physical world and the tunnel vision on the physical world, and also on the flip side of that, the tunnel vision of psychology and rational conceptual thinking, and the explanation of everything and anything in a materialistic way. A spiritual experience is something that evokes a feeling deeper, or like I said a moment ago, beyond the narrative of what we're often taught in this culture. Now, there is most definitely a drastic difference between a spiritual experience and a religious experience, where a religious experience may have in it the energies and the qualities of a spiritual experience, but a spiritual experience is generally more formless, more free, more liberated from a face or a character or a historical description of what it is that you're experiencing. A religious experience is, I guess you could say, a spiritual experience that is seen through the filter of a traditional historic religion that someone knows or is interested in, and then you could consider something like confirmation bias, where the experience they have is seen from the vantage point of their religious belief system. I'm talking about one step out from that, being the actual experience itself, the actual spiritual experience. Now, I want to say real quick that I wanted to make notes for this video. I wanted to make notes and categories of different talking points and different sub-points for each of those talking points, because this is a deep topic. This is something that kind of hit me within the last 24 hours and is something that I felt I wanted to share. But, this evening I really got the calling to start this video, and I hadn't made any notes, and I wasn't going to jot them down and write them down and, do that roughly and quickly, So I decided to just set my phone up and begin talking about it. So I'm hoping that I don't miss or skim over some important points in this, but I'm going to do the best that I can to really flesh it out and articulate it. So bear with me, essentially, is what I'm saying. A spiritual experience is something that points to the reality of something deeper and beyond materialism or traditional psychology, or you could even say traditional religion. A spiritual experience is a direct and immediate and absolutely intimate confrontation with reality itself and the qualities of that reality. And there are a whole range, perhaps infinite, ways that the spiritual experience can occur for each person. Not only for each person, but that each individual person can experience a spiritual experience in a multitude of different ways every single time. It's not always going to be the same. It's not always going to be characterized by the same qualities, To me, a spiritual experience connects me to my heart, to clear thinking, to unity, to understanding the web of perfection and depth woven in to every little bit of this moment, of this very moment. I feel in the midst of a spiritual experience the throes of such love and joy and peace and contemplation that has arrived at its final turn, its final bend, if you can hear that. Seated and fixed, just wonder. Complete, though. Housed wonder. Final wonder. Wonder itself. Sort of the seed form of just, here we are. I feel sadness, but not a self-pitying sadness, not a boo-hoo kind of sadness, but a sort of existential aching for the situation that we are all in, the cosmic situation, the cosmic dance that we're all in. The sadness, the pain is a a combinatory mix of motherly and fatherly nurturing. I feel ultimate humor. It may manifest as laughter, but it also may just be, when you hear a joke and the punchline gets shared and there's this immediate, you get the joke. That is manifest during a spiritual experience. Often in my day-to-day life, what you could call, of course, it's everything but mundane in reality, but in the confines of the mind and habit and routine, when I'm in the mundanity of my own mind, I'm very sequential, very linear, where I have a thought, I wake up in the morning, I have a thought. That thought could be an anticipation of something, or a recollection of something, or the perception of something in the immediate moment. And when I have that, when that thought arises, whatever thought that may be, I just kind of follow it. And I sort of let myself go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And that may look good and that may look bad. And oftentimes it's not really the best way that it could have gone. My mind naturally and habitually doesn't really often carve in the best path for me when I just sort of let go into it. And what I'm saying is that in the mundanity of my life, I just follow my mind. And whatever my mind does is how I feel and what I'm thinking. And out of that comes the actions that I make. And I'm very... That mind, with all those arising thoughts, is very reactive to the external environment. A spiritual experience, in the midst of a spiritual experience, my mind isn't functioning in the same way anymore. I guess you could say that the thoughts are still occurring, but it's as though whatever this I is, whatever my fundamental existence is, has sort of ballooned out beyond it. And that mind, that mental narrative, that mental dialogue, which I'm so used to listening to and following every single day, during this spiritual experience, that mind becomes very tiny. Only a fragment of what I and this actually is and amounts to. And so because of that, with it only being a fraction, I'm not engaged with it. I'm not really bothered by it or interested and fascinated with it in the same way that you probably aren't considering that you can feel your butt against the seat that you're sitting in, or your feet hitting the ground as you walk. The mind and the identity and the narrative and the habits and the problems and all that mental stuff becomes just a refracted angle of this massive, yet simple experience of real reality. I perceive in a much different way during a spiritual experience, where I'm not thinking in the form of block blocks of thought and idea, but rather it's like I'm directly experiencing different motifs of reality or of myself, if that makes sense. I'm experiencing, connection, loneliness, joy, love, confusion, mystery, Oh, wow, look at that delusion. It's as though I can see the very way it's all going down, the very uprisings of all the thought and all the emotion. Where in the midst of a spiritual experience, if someone were to address me in a particular way that if I weren't in a spiritual experience, I would get uptight or reactive or defensive about. If that were to happen during a spiritual experience, I may just see it as this sort of formless phenomena. And because of that, I don't even notice that I could or should or would get mad about it at all. It's just stuff happening. You know what I'm saying? In the midst of a spiritual experience, I feel at home. I feel unified with nature, with Gaia, with the wind, with the trees, with the birds, with the stars, with the space, the black abyss of emptiness in between all the stars. Everything is me, and I am it, and there is no separation, and it's no longer an idea of unity or oneness. It's the direct perception and experience of oneness. It's not an idea. It's not this thing that sounds cool that you sort of believe in or would like to believe in or say when someone asks you a certain question. It's something you directly see. You see, how could it be separate? I'm home. We are all home. We are all just here together in this impossible yet possible thing. The quality of love that I feel during a spiritual experience is different than the sort of the flirtations that we have throughout our lives with romantic love or even familial love, whether that be a relative or a friend or a pet. Those loves are the offspring of true love. And true love is the love of self. And the self is reality. Not you in your body thinking who you think you are, but reality itself. The love that you feel, that I feel within that is, I can see, love itself. It's not something that makes me love. It is love. It's an outpouring of love itself. There are certain, sometimes, very intense alterations in your perception, in my perception, during a spiritual experience. The reason I say that is because I just thought of the perception of time not mattering, time not being relevant to the experience, to the immediacy of the moment that you're having at that time. There is no time for it or because of it, or you're not like checking your clock to see how long you've been having this spiritual experience. I hope I'm not making this out to be something that's like titanically alien from normal life, because it's not. It literally is this experience right now of me sitting in this room talking about it, of you watching this video, listening to me talk about it. It is this right now, but it's like a phase change, a shift of where you're looking from within. And when you shift where you're looking from, the whole thing is different. It goes from nothing special, boredom, depression, anxiety, frustration, to suddenly everything is pure, miraculous love. Just pulsating with meaning and potential and creativity and joy and love and brilliance and ineffability and perfection. How is that so? How is that so? What happened? What changed? Are you mentally ill? Are you mentally ill when you can go from that one plane to a plane like what I just described, where you are just absorbed and consumed in bliss? Is that a foreshadowing of something being clinically wrong with you? Or do you think maybe it's deeper than that? Do you think maybe there's actually a sort of legitimacy to what we're all talking about of a spiritual experience? Something where you see a deeper reality. The reason that I initially described a spiritual experience in part as something that isn't congruent with rational thinking and psychology is because psychology will often see and characterize and box up what I'm describing right now as a certain personality trait, a certain aspect of you as an individual that's it's an influence of some sort from somewhere that's caused you to think and feel and perceive in this particular way, which is sort of discrediting the potential reality and legitimacy and truth of that spiritual experience. It psychology, rational psychology, undermines what I'm talking about by saying that it's caused by the ego, by the mind, by emotions, by your physiology. Once again, making it, sort of watering it down into the physical world. Man, in the midst of a spiritual experience, this physical world is just like a sort of shimmering reflection. This world is the shadow of where you're seeing from in truth. This world, this physical world that we often think is the real meat and potatoes, the real reality of it all, becomes like a just a gust of wind, just a body, no body, perception, no perception. It doesn't matter, man. What's real is real and can't be changed. It can't be dislodged. It can't be talked out of. It is what it is. And that's love. That's love. The mind still functions in the midst of this spiritual experience. The mind is still functioning. I described it as very small and minuscule a bit ago, but that doesn't mean it's completely not present. Doesn't mean it's not there. And the mind may respond in the way that the mind always responds, of superstition, judgment, criticism, fear. Another way that the mind will quite often respond to these spiritual experiences is attachment, wanting to have it again, wanting it to become manifest again. Because the mind is cognizant enough to know that where it just was in that spiritual experience, it knows that it got a piece of the cake. It got a piece of the cake. Although the mind was sort of broken out of by the self that lives within it, that mind knows, man, that spiritual experience, that's what's up. I don't want to live in the confines of this mental restricted prison of thinking and judgment and, self-hatred and depression and all my stuff and all my agony and all my silly stuff and my desires that are never getting fulfilled. And I don't want to live in that, man. I want to be out there. I want to be out with the one. I want to tune in to what's up. I want to be with what matters. I want to be with what's real. You can see that where I'm speaking from is that mind that just longs to forever be with, should I say, God, Spirit, truth, reality. Doesn't really matter, but you got to put something in there to show that you're talking about something other than the mind and normal reality. You know what I'm saying? That can be a major pitfall, a major barrier in our day-to-day lives of wanting to get high through spirituality. You can't blame us, it makes sense. It makes sense to want to feel good. You want to feel good and be home. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's much, much, much deeper than feeling good. It's about being at home. It's about being at home and no longer deluding yourself and misleading others. It's about seeing deeper and deeper and deeper into the mystery, into the wonder, the pure cosmic wonder. A spiritual experience is something that if I haven't had it in a while, I start to get really anxious that I've lost it. That I'm no longer with God, with Spirit. That I've lost my edge, I've lost my touch, I've lost my zest. I am no longer spiritual. I didn't practice enough. I didn't do my sadhana, my spiritual practice, hard enough. I didn't have enough faith. I, a schmuck, messed up. This is what my mind does when it goes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months without what I'm describing, a spiritual episode, a spiritual experience. And when I do have spiritual experiences, I feel so, first of all, rejuvenated, refreshed, in love, happy. It's like a feeling of taking a shower after 2 weeks without bathing. It's like a feeling of waking up after, on that first day of the weekend where you get to sleep in after working all week and getting up at 5 in the morning. It's complete renewal, first of all. Second of all, I feel so I want to console the part of me that wallows when I'm not actively in that state of spiritual ecstasy. I want to console the humanity of myself, and I do. And that very consoling is what strengthens my faith muscle, if you will. It's what strengthens the thing that when I'm feeling down and 99.9% absorbed in my inadequacy and not enoughness and sadness and boredom and all my stuff, there's that 0.001% that says, keep going, bro. You just wait. You know what's up. You know what's up. Stay. Just keep going. That faith is strengthened by the renewal of spiritual experience, of grace. I'll tell you right now, I'm someone who experiences the reality of a divine other. It's not even other, is not the right word, it's God, man. It's spirit, it's creator. That doesn't make it separate from me, but what I'm doing is recognizing that it exists at all. That's what I feel. I can't not see it, man. And what I call grace is something bestowed by God, spirit, my higher self, whatever you want to call it, destiny, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. A spiritual experience is a connection, a moment of connection in truth with myself. And the absolute essence of it is love, self-love, love for everything and everyone and anything and all of it. It's all perfect. It's all okay. It's all good. And man, it's bliss and love and unity like you wouldn't imagine. Now, these spiritual experiences come about in a myriad of different ways. I'm not even going to begin to be able to list all of them because it's so unique to you and to your karmic positioning, where you're at, you know? One person could get up in the morning and they start brewing their coffee, and as they're pouring their coffee, they go into this spiritual experience. There's not a way to do it. You can't make it happen. This is something that I've reiterated again and again and again on this channel, is that you can't coerce what I'm talking about to happen. You can only have faith and show that you give a shit about yourself. Spiritual experience can happen in many, many, many different ways. It can happen on a silent walk in the woods, or maybe a not silent walk in the woods where you're talking with your friends or listening to music. It can happen while sitting in meditation. It can happen while you're driving your car or walking through a city, or the smell of incense, or a certain song, or working with certain substances, cannabis, psychedelics, or maybe during a moment of sexual union and ecstasy with your partner, with your lover. Or maybe it happens it's triggered at a death, seeing a loved one die. Or maybe you being struck with the fear of death, or a near-death experience, or witnessing a birth. A deep talk with a loved one, with a stranger, doesn't matter. Ordeal. A spiritual experience can be triggered by deep trauma and suffering, deep pain and despair and surrendering, not knowing the way out and being at your wit's end. All these things. The smell of coffee, as I stated a moment ago. The sound of the wind and the birds, you know. All these things are possible catalytic cues for us to become awake to a spiritual reality. Now, in the beginning of this video, I talked about there being a difference between a spiritual experience and a religious experience. What I mean by that is that someone who has this spiritual experience may, as they're landing from it, describe it in the vocabulary and literature of a particular religion. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, these kinds of things. It may be sort of, you know, like forced into a categorical understanding that we have of what God could be, of what spirituality could be. We may see this spiritual experience in terms of a religion that we already believe in or have studied. We're Essentially, we're trying to draw on the wind, is what we're trying to do when we try to cram that spiritual experience into the box of organized religion. See, religion, organized religion, that believe in higher reality or higher beings, they are pointing to what I'm doing right now, what I'm talking about right now, spiritual experience, spiritual reality, the truth of divinity, of God. They're going to describe it in all sorts of ways, man. They're going to put a face on it in all sorts of ways. If we are so fortunate as to have a spiritual experience, leave it as that. Don't try and distill it into structure, because what you're going to be left with is a sort of crude, finite memory of what was once nameless, raw beauty. Think of the word rose in comparison to an actual rose. That's what happens when we try to categorize and rationalize these spiritual experiences. Leave them as ineffable. And the fun part is there are certain religions, many, I must say, that have books and literature that articulate what I'm talking about right now magnitudes more clear and in depth and with more clarity. Much, much, much deeper. Maybe you can see some of them. For me, right here, the Tao Te Ching, the Bhagavad Gita, self-liberation through seeing with naked awareness, all these things which are pointing, look, reality, spirituality. Yeah, you can't make it happen. You gotta just let it happen. I wanted to share this with you guys because spiritual experience is why this channel exists. The depth and reality of spirituality. And as we all do, I have a hard time sometimes, a lot of the time, living in my finite ego with all my dilemmas and desires and fears and insecurities and lack of confidence and then overconfidence and then let down and then good stuff and bad stuff and all of it. I spend a good amount of time in that. But watching it all and sort of, letting it all marinate before I come up for air. Watching it all is this fundamental depth of just pure love and wonder and expression and newness, novelty, presence. Another reason spiritual experience is so addictive is I'm not a dick when I'm in love. I'm not a jerk when I'm in love. When I'm with God, when I'm tuned in to what's up, all I can do is laugh and love and look you in the eye and remind you of how beautiful everything is and how beautiful you are. And when you tell me you're worthless and not good enough, I look at you like, come on, man, really? Like that's not true. And to be living from such a place of love, only to then have to come back into judgment, criticism, feeling inferior and then superior and then all this ego stuff. That shift can be so intense. And you go, man, I just want to be in love. I just want to love me and love you and love everything. Out of that spiritual absorption comes absolutely pure thinking and action and speech and the way you carry yourself. And you want to know what else comes out of spiritual experience? Is the most beautiful, badass, amazing, rich vibes and energy you will ever feel. When these kind of people walk in the room, man, you feel their vibes. It's the vibes themselves. The perception and the truth of it is so deep and so true and so real that it's emanating outward in some sort of toroidal field of energy exchange between one conscious thing and the other. You know what I'm saying? You feel those vibes, man. You can't help but feel those amazing vibes emanating from somebody who is tuned into what's up. That's a new one-liner that suddenly occurred to me the other day. Is tune in to what's up. What's up is what's going on, man. The depth of it, the reality of it, the beauty of it, the truth of it, the horror of it, the pain of it. Tune in to what's up. Tune in to reality. You know? I just wanted to take some time to share with you guys my thoughts and feelings on what a spiritual experience is to me, honestly. I hope this was insightful and exciting and refreshing. I hope it was a nice listen, you know. I hope it helps you even a little bit to remember who you are. I love you guys so much. If you're watching this, I love you. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I will see you all in the next video. Thank you.